In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make the viral kebab recipe in an air fryer. Now, the humble doner kebab has been a staple in most households in the UK for a long time. Even in my household, since I was a kid, I remember Friday night going with my dad to the local kebab place, right through till I got a bit older. And my Friday nights changed. I was out drunk with my friends and we were still getting the doner kebab. So I have a lot of love for this kebab. I've tried quite a few recipes over the years to recreate it. Some have been pretty good, some not so good. But I would say that this recipe, actually I got it off of Dean Edwards on Facebook. So I followed his recipe to a point with a few twists. But I'd say this recipe is probably the best in terms of recreating my nostalgic memories of a Friday night kebab. The texture is perfect and it just tastes amazing. Right, so here is everything you need for the doner kebab. Now we've got 400 grams of lamb mince. I'm using 20% fat. I prefer the slightly fattier content. I think it lends really well for the doner kebab. You can use 10% because we are using some Greek yogurt, so there is some extra fat content from there. Salt, cumin, then we've got some onion powder, some dried coriander leaves and dried oregano. You can use different herbs. These are the herbs that I find work best for me. And then a smoked paprika. Again, you can just use a sweet paprika. This all goes straight into the blender. We're only going to use half of the onion, so I'm going to just cut and peel that. Now, we're going to save the other half of the onion because we will use that later for the salad. And I will give you a tip on how to cut an onion without getting too emotional and crying. All right, so I only need to roughly chop everything because it's all going to go into that blender and we'll get a nice smooth consistency. The other thing when chopping an onion is try to use a knife as sharp as possible. There you go. Right, so we'll go straight in with the onion and then just one clove of garlic. I like to just bash the garlic. I find it's the easiest way just to release those cloves. Just take the bottom end off where it's connected to the bulb, and then I find that just releases the whole skin so easily and comes off in one clean sweep. Again, just roughly chop that garlic clove because the blender will do most of the work for you. And then, of course, the star of the show is that lamb mince. So that just goes straight on top of everything else. Now, these are all kind of measured out except the salt. So we're going in with just about half a teaspoon of salt. There is a teaspoon of the cumin seeds, 1 teaspoon of onion granules, fresh coriander, oregano, and then we're going in with 2 teaspoons of the smoked paprika, and then 2 tablespoons of that Greek yogurt. And then we'll just give that a good blitz. All right, so that's just been going around just for 30 seconds or so. We'll just take a quick look. Actually, that looks pretty much perfect, but let's just give it another 10 seconds just to make sure we've got the onions and the garlics and everything's just mixed through nicely. That looks and smells amazing. I know it's not cooked yet, but it's just the blend of those spices together gives a really aromatic sort of pungent smell. Right, now this is the fun bit. This is how we assemble that kebab. What you need is, I'm gonna swap out my boards. So this is the red meat board. And I've pre-cut some parchment paper. So 4 sheets here. Now, because I'm using the air fryer, I've cut these to kind of fit inside the air fryer. If you're doing this in the oven, actually you can just use the whole sheets and probably get them all done with half the amount needed. Parchment paper laid out. Now I'm using a spatula. You can just use a spoon here. I just find the spatula really helps kind of spread that kebab onto the parchment paper. Right, there you go. So start off with a nice blob there. Now we want to get this really nice and thin. What we're doing is we'll put the parchment paper on top, pat that down, and I need a rolling pin, but I think I've forgotten my rolling pin. But not to worry, because a can will save the day. So you're going to use a rolling pin. I'm going to use a can of tinned tomatoes, which is fine because we're going to use this later for the sauce. Now give that a good roll out. Get it as flat as you can, all the way to the ends of the paper, as thin as possible. The thinner the better, because it gives you that real recreation of those slices off of the spit with a doner kebab. To get that nice and flat, use your hands to kind of get it spread out. There you go. Who needs a rolling pin? And you've got a tin of tomatoes. Right, so that's the first one done. Nice and thin. And then you just roll this up into a nice, neat roll. And then we'll go again with the second one. Nice and thin. And then we shall roll that up as well. I know it's almost hard to envisage at this point that this blended kind of meat, yogurt and spice blend will turn into a kebab, but I promise you it will. And then we'll just flatten that last one down. I'm just being a bit greedy because I'm hungry, so I thought we may as well use all the mince up. Right, and then we'll roll this last sheet up. Now we're going to cook this. So any air fryer will do. I'm using my trusty Ninja Multi. It does a variety of things, but today we are just having it simply on air fryer mode. 15 to 20 minutes. I always set it for 20, but I'll check it in 15 because it's normally done at that point. So I'm going to do it on 200 degrees for 20 minutes. Like I say, I'll check it in 15. Right, so that's the doner kebab cooking away. And whilst we're waiting on that, I am going to start on my ultimate kebab shop chili sauce. Chili sauce, yes please boss. Right, so let's get all the ingredients for this. Really simple. Depends how spicy you like the sauce. I'm going with 2 chilies. You can use any chilies you like. They do give a bit of a kind of kick anyway, so I'm using those. We're going to do 3 cloves, half an onion, 2 chilies, and then we're going to use 3/4 of the tin of tomatoes, and then about a tablespoon of the tomato puree. So if we just, again, I'm just going to roughly chop these ingredients because they are going to be blitzed up. So we're going to let technology take most of the work out of it for us. Again with those cloves, ends off. Just a light touch on those just to get that skin off. Right, and then I don't know if you remember before, I mentioned about cutting an onion can get very emotional. Actually, this onion's not too bad, but some can have a real effect on you and make you cry. Little tip, I have no idea why this works, but it does, is just a small teaspoon on the roof of your mouth. And I don't know why it works, but it does. Probably because you're busy laughing rather than crying. If you know why it works or the science behind it, or if you've tried it and it has worked for you, do comment below. We're just gonna, again, roughly chop this onion. This one's not too strong. Chop up those garlic cloves. And again, with the chilies, I'm keeping as much of the seeds and the membrane in because I do want that chili sauce kick. Right, and then we are going to use the Ninja again. I'm not actually sponsored by Ninja, believe it or not, but, well, if they want to sponsor me, they know where I am. And then all the ingredients go straight in. So about 3/4 of that tin. I've gone with the whole peeled tomatoes. And then, like I say, about a tablespoon of tomato puree. That splits that up, and we've got not long for that kebab, actually. I do actually want to keep it a little bit coarse because that's, again, my preferred style and texture for the sauce. But you can, if you want it a little bit thinner, you can just blitz it for a little bit longer. And what we're going to do now is the salad. And every time I am asked, do I want salad with that? I say, yes, please, all of it. Lettuce, I just like this nice and finely shredded. Onion again. If you need to suck on a teaspoon, you can do that. I'm all right for now. And I just like relatively thin slices, kind of thick enough to get that onion hit. So I just chop the end off and then just slice that onion. I'm trying to keep it as traditional as I can. So I like the rather large slices of the tomato there. And then the red cabbage, we are going to pickle this, and it's a very, very simple way of using just salt and some fresh lemon juice. And it only needs to sit for a few minutes. So we're just going to watch your fingers because it probably will stain them. With just a little bit of salt over the top. And then you can use lemon juice out of a bottle, but I am just going with fresh lemon juice. You can use a juicer. I'm just putting my hands over to catch any pips that might come out. There you go. And that is everything I need for salad. Right, and now that salad is ready, we're just gonna let that sit for a bit, especially the cabbage, just to get pickling, and we'll crack on with the sauce. This sauce is all blended. All we need to do is just cook it off. I'm gonna say 5 to 10 minutes is all it needs. So I'm using an induction hob, and we were gonna go with a relatively high heat. Right, so that all goes in there. We're just gonna bring that up to a boil and then drop it to a simmer, just to cook out those raw ingredients. And as that's coming up, you can already smell that. Give that a stir. Right, so let's just get that down to now a steady simmer, and then all that's gonna need is another 5 or 6 minutes. Right, so whilst that is simmering away, let's get the bread ready. Now, bread choice. There are a few options to go for. I've gone for a Greek flatbread. I just really like the Greek flatbreads. They're soft, they're fluffy, they taste amazing. I am also a fan of the kind of traditional Pitta that you'd use, or you could go for like an Indian style naan bread or anything like that. But we're gonna go with a Greek flatbread today, and I'm just gonna do it on the pan here. So let's turn that again on a high heat, and then just a little bit of olive oil I'm going to brush just on one side. Just helps soften up the flatbread. So I'll just use one of these, they're like pastry brushes. That is about ready to flip over. The sauce, you can smell that amazing sauce. Yeah, that's pretty much done. And we're going to just start assembling the kebab now. Let's swap this board out because that lovely meat is going to come out, and we're going to chop that. Look at that flatbread, that is so soft and ready. Look at that. That looks amazing. Wow, here you go. This one's gone a little bit crispy actually, but like I said, I quite like that. Oh, it literally smells like a kebab shop in here. Nice thin strips like you'd get as it's cut freshly off of that spit. Wow, look at that. Let's just move that across, get the plate. Let's layer this up. So plenty of meat on top, different consistencies, some are crispier than others. Salad, all the salad please. Onions, tomatoes over the top. This cabbage has nicely pickled now, so we're just gonna top that. And last, definitely not least, chili sauce. Extra chili sauce for me, please. And that is the viral doner kebab done in an air fryer. Right, now let's give that a try. I'm gonna get a bit of that meat, a bit of that chili sauce, some cabbage. Wow, that really tastes like a kebab shop doner kebab. That really is amazing. Now I hope you enjoyed watching this as I enjoyed cooking it and eating it. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe. If you've tried this or you're going to try it, do comment below.